Okay guys, packet lesson 3-6. There is no pre-lesson because what you're going to do is you're going to use your previous lessons, as you can see, and try to apply them to these story problems. Don't panic when I say story problems. I think these are easier than the ones you guys did in previous units. But that means you got to understand the stuff we've been talking about recently. And you might want one of these rascals handy because some of these numbers get a little bit weird. So here we go. Josh asked a bank teller to cash a $230 check using $10 bills and $20 bills. If the teller gave him a total of 15 bills, now I'm going to do something here a second. I'm going to grab a couple of markers to help these words create math equations. That is the goal of this unit. So notice it says a total of 15 bills. And then it said you got $230 with $10 bills and $20 bills. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say, hey, I want to let $10 bills equal X. And I'm going to let $20 bills equal my good friend Y. So from this pink sentence, I got one equation, and that is X plus Y equals 15. And this is talking about the number of bills. See, it's not talking about money. It's talking about the number of bills. This one is talking about the cash. So for every $10 bill, so if I have 2 tens, I got 20. If I have 3 tens, I got 30. 4 tens, I got 40. Same thing with the 20s, though. For every $20 bill, I obviously have $20. But that's going to total 230. So, with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and multiply this out. And you got to think, along the way, you got to be thinking, what can I do to these to just simplify my life? Well, how about we divide this by 10? Why? Because we can. X plus 2y equals 23. My goodness, that little trick was helpful. And look at what we got. We got this equation with 2 variables, this equation with 2 variables. Now, because we haven't done much substitution, I'm going to go ahead and use substitution. You don't have to, but I'm going to subtract x from this side right here. And watch what I'm going to do. This is a little different variation of substitution. And I'm going to get y equals 15 minus x. See, I got that from over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this value right here because they're equal. And so I'm going to get x plus 2 times 15 minus x equals 23. Now I'm going to distribute. X plus 30 minus 2x equals 23. I'm going to add these two rascals together and get negative x. I'm going to subtract 30, and I'm going to get negative x equals negative 7. That means positive x equals positive 7. What does that tell me? It tells me I have 7 $10 bills. Well, if that's true, how many 20s do I have? Well, if I take a look at this equation, or just use common sense, 7 plus y equals 15, y has to equal 8. So I have 7 $10 bills, and I have 8 $20 bills. And there you go. Now this is going to be similar. These all are. They're just different topics. Tickets for the homecoming dance cost $15. So here comes the money for a single ticket, and $25 for a couple. And then here's the money part of it. It all costs $1,950. This one doesn't have anything to do with money. It has to do with people. This one actually is a bit tricky. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's go ahead and go to the easy part, the yellow part. It's 15 bucks for every singles ticket. That's an S, not a 5. I have to add 25 bucks, whoops, for every couples ticket. And see, it's all about the money. It's all about the green. And there's my first mathematical sentence that has to do with cashola. And I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to divide this all by 5. Why? Because I can. So 3S plus 5C equals, I'll try to do this in my head, danger, 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 15, that'd be 45, 90. There we go. I think I got it. Here comes the tricky one. This is people. So if I went like this, if I went singles ticket plus couples ticket equals 145 people, I just made a mistake because this is talking about the number of people. So you have to think your way through this. For every singles ticket, it's one person. But for every couples ticket, it's 2. See, C represents a ticket, but it represents 2 people if it's a couple's ticket. That's the trick. 145. Now I'm going to go ahead and stack this. 3S plus 5C equals 390. And I'm going to use good old elimination. So I see this 3C. I'm going to multiply this top one by -3, because that's going to give me my opposite of 3S. Did I say 3C? I meant 3S. And then multiply here, get -6C equals, better use my calculator. I don't want to screw this up this deep into the problem. 145 times 3 is 435, but I know it's negative. And I'm going to add these together, slash eliminate these two. That was the whole purpose. So I get -C equals, see, this would be -45. 390 minus 435. So C equals 45. There were 45 couple tickets. This is how many tickets of each type were sold. Well, if I go back to this one that I messed up a little bit, and it says S plus 2C equals 145, and I put 45 in for C, I'd get S plus 90 equals 145. Subtract 90 from both sides, and I'd get 55. So there's 55 singles tickets, 45 couples tickets, and that's how you handle that one. I think that's the hardest one in the assignment because of that little trick over here, that darn 2. Okay, now we're going to hit some geometry. Find the measures of the angles of an isosceles triangle. You better remember this from geometry. That means 2 of our sides are the same. If the measure of the vertex angle, now it's been a while since you guys have had this, is 40 more than the sum of the base angles. See, now this is a base angle, and so is this. That means that must be the one they're talking about as far as the vertex. So there's your geometry terminology coming in handy. Well, what do we know about an isosceles triangle? We know that these 2 sides are equal, which means these 2 angles have to be equal, which means this one's different. Now remember, we're involving 2 variables. Now a lot of people would say, why don't you just add this to this, x plus x, that's 2x, and make this 180 minus 2x. You're not wrong, but we're going to call this y and deal with it that way because we're going to deal with 2 variables like we've been doing. Before I even read any of this stuff, I know one little formula that's already popping out at me because of my geometry. I know that this plus this plus this has to add up to 180. So this plus this is 2x plus y equals 180. That's just your general rule of triangles. Now we're going to read this information and make sense of it. The measure of the vertex angle, what do we call that? y. What's this? Equals. Y equals 40 more than, here we go, y equals 40 more than the sum of the base angles. Well, that's x plus x, which is 2x. We don't get to use substitution very often, but look at this. Y equals this stuff. So I'm going to put that right in there. That's a little trick so that we get rid of the y variable. So I'm going to write this as 2x plus 40 plus 2x. Notice I substituted what y equals in for y. Equals 180. 2x and 2x is 4x. I'm going to subtract 40 from both sides, and I get 140. Divide by 4, divide by 4. Let's do some math. I know that's 35. What is that? What did I just find? X. What's the problem asking me for? Find the measures of the angles. All right, well, I got x is 35, so that's 35. That's 35. What's 35 and 35? 70. Well, how many degrees are there in any triangle? 180. So I'm just going to subtract, and I'm going to get 110. So this is 110, the vertex angle. Base angles have to match, and they're 35. All right, not to depress you, but we got two more problems, one on the back. Uh-oh, this says two isosceles triangles have the same base length. Well, I'm going to draw an isosceles triangle just to get kick-started. So I know this is like that. And I know that the base lengths are the same, but then we got to keep reading. It says the legs of one of the triangles are 3 times as long as the legs of the other. So I'm going to make this my shorty just because I can't triple it way up here. So I know these are the same. I better put 3 in there because I don't want you to think that these all 4 are equal. I do know that this and this are the same though because it's the same base length. So let's call this x and x. Here's some algebra. And I'm going to go ahead and start with this Mr. Shorty and call those y's. And it says the legs of one of the triangles are 3 times as long as the legs of the other. I'm just going to triple this. So this is 3y. And this is 3y. Now look, it says find the lengths of the sides of the triangles if the perimeters are 13 and 29. Well, obviously this one's shorter. So if I add all the sides up, that's going to give me my perimeter. X plus 2y equals 13. But this one, the perimeter, x plus this is 6y equals 29, and now I've got my system of equations. And you gotta love this when you got x stacked above x. No, I'm not going to add them right now because that wouldn't eliminate my variable. I'm going to multiply this one by a negative, just simply making this a negative, making this a negative, making this a negative. And then I'm going to add these because my x's are now going to cancel. Negative 4y equals negative 16. Divide by negative 4, divide by negative 4, and I get 4. Now notice what the problem's asking. Find the lengths of the sides of the triangles, so both of them. Well, I know that y is 4, and I know this is 4. How am I going to find x? Well, if the perimeter of the small guy is 13, and I know this is 4 plus 4, which is 8, this has to be 5. Now I'm going to use the same logic over here. If y equals 4, that means these sides are 12, and this is 12. 12 and 12 is 24, and if I subtract that from 29, I get 5. Wouldn't that have been easier just to say, hey, weren't they the same? Yeah, but oh well. There we go. Last problem. All right, we got some pens and pencils. So I've been going with this. 8 pens and 7 pencils cost $3.37. 5 pens and 11 pencils cost $3.10. These are both about the cash. So I can't label pens P and pencils P. So I'm going to call this X. I'm going to call this Y, which means I need to stay consistent. And now I'm going to build my formula. 8 pens and 7 pencils, $3.37. 5 pens